Hello everybody and welcome back. It has been a while. I haven't really made any content for the past probably year or so, but I figured it was about time to get back into it, just casually, mostly some gaming stuff. And there might be a couple of farming videos up in the channel, but we'll have to see about that. Anyhow, today we're here to look at the Logitech G920 racing wheel, wheelbase, and pedals. And we're going to do a couple of hardware things, some sim racing stuff in the near future. I started sim racing a little over a year and a half ago, so I've gained some experience and I thought I'd bring some of these things to light. So this G920 was my first ever piece of sim racing kit, and I'm actually getting rid of it, so we're going to do a sort of 9-month review on it. I started sim racing about a year and a half ago, pretty casually for the first 8 or so months, and then especially in the past 4, I started to take it a little bit more serious, and I've still got a long ways to go and I'm still very much a novice. So let's talk about the wheel itself. It came as a package which cost me a little over $300 with shipping included, and for that $300 you get this wheel and base and these pedals all in one. And starting off with the pedals, they're mostly made of plastic, but again, this is a beginner kit. You've got gas, clutch, and brake. Gas has the least stiffness, clutch has a little more resistance, and the brake is non-linear, so actually it has a pretty good progressive load feel to it. There's a rubber stopper that you can remove or replace if you think it needs too much pressure. I also needed a lighter brake because my chair has wheels and I prefer to remain seated while racing, but I found that I can accomplish this in most of my game settings and without changing the actual dampener itself. On the flip side of things, there's a carpet gripping piece here on the bottom, but it doesn't really work. I found I didn't really need it. Overall though, the pedals actually feel pretty good for the price point. Now onto the wheel itself. It's actually not a direct drive system at all. It's a servo/cog driven system, and for that reason it can be a little bit noisy, but it's not all that bad once you get used to it. Due to that cog drive, it can also feel sort of weird to turn the wheel fast because it makes a slightly concerning but totally normal sound. Now, the wheel comes in with just about 2.2 Newton meters of torque, which, let's be real, is not a lot. So the force feedback response feels just a little bit underwhelming compared to something more high-end. For beginner racing, though, I think it works just fine, specifically because I was new to force feedback and I ended up turning it down for a little bit coming from the controller. It is an odd feeling if you've never used it before. The steering can be a little weird sometimes, but it's pretty accurate and hasn't caused me any issues. These desktop mounting clamps are shockingly quite sufficient. I think I've only had the thing fly off the desk like twice, and that was because I didn't properly tighten them. The wheel itself has a good tactile feel, and the actual leather here feels pretty high quality. It's got about a 900-degree physical lock and 2 motors. I've felt a little bit of warmth in the base, but I've never had it get considerably warm at all, even with high force feedback settings. And the shifters don't have that magnetic type of quality feel to it, but these are entry level, and for entry level, I actually quite like the response. They're pretty quiet compared to something like Moza's R5, and they feel pretty decent. Now, as for the actual controls on the wheel, there's quite a few buttons, plenty for what I normally do. The controls are kinda gamey and a little less sim-like, but that's because it uses the Xbox format, and I've never really had a second thought about this. It is worth noting that there are no turn dials for brake balance or anything like that, but I have all my stuff bound to the side buttons. All in all, the wheel and base feels pretty good, especially at just that $300 price tag. Now, my final point, the software. It's kinda clunky and featureless and likes to not work super well. Actually, I'm not really a fan. That said, the wheel is pretty simple to set up and I haven't really had to use the software at all anyway, so I'd consider it a non-issue because you don't really need it. Alright, so my final review. I'm actually really happy that I got this wheel. It was a great starter wheel and I've had a lot of fun, especially at the price point. I would recommend this for anyone trying to get into sim racing. Now, I am not planning on keeping this wheel, but not for lack of quality, and you'll see why in a different video. Until then, race hard, drive clean, and for the love of God, take turn while the Monza carefully.